So recently, I ticked off 2 massive career goals that, to be totally honest, I wasn't sure I was ever gonna reach. So number 1 was to have a massive billboard of one of my photos, and number 2 was to have my work play on the big screens at one of the busiest intersections in the world, Shibuya Crossing. So for those of you that don't know, back in 2018, I packed my whole life into 2 suitcases and moved from Sydney, Australia to a country I could not even speak the language with one goal in mind: to become a full-time content creator. So the months leading up to the big move, I had people all around me telling me that I'll never succeed in the photography industry. Along with things like, there's no money to be made as a photographer and you're too late to the game, it's already oversaturated. But the thing was, I was hard-headed and I ignored all these naysayers. And I've now had the opportunity to travel all around the world to places like New York, Singapore, Taiwan, Chicago, and Korea. And I've also had the opportunity to work with world-renowned brands such as Bose, Mercedes-Benz, D1 Milano, and many more. And something that I constantly see stopping people from chasing their dreams is that they end up listening to the naysayers and they start to believe that maybe it's just not possible. So my life in Sydney lacked fulfillment, and to be totally honest, a lot of things in my life were spiraling out of control, and I was really heading nowhere fast. There was just so much uncertainty about my future, and I knew I could do so much more in my life, but I just didn't know how. But if we fast forward to today, I've never been more excited about life, never been happier, and have never felt more in control. So in today's video, I want to dive deeper into the topics of finding and chasing your passions and how you can live a life on your own terms. And even in the midst of a global pandemic, I know there are so many people out there that are struggling and are totally confused with life. But I personally believe that right now is arguably the best time to start creating the life you want to live. And before we jump in, I just want to say that this video isn't a video of me trying to flex and brag about how good my life is, because honestly, there's still so much I want to achieve. And there's struggles every day that I'm constantly dealing with. But this is something I constantly get asked about, and I just want to share some of the things that have worked for me. So firstly, I want to quickly cover my backstory so you can get some context of who I am and how I even started photography. And I'm not going to go too into detail about it here, because I do have a free 1-hour photography training where I dive a lot deeper into this topic. But the main takeaway here is that I'm not special. And if I can do this, then honestly, anybody can. So firstly, I absolutely hated school, and I ended up dropping out when I was only 15 years old. At the time, my mum wasn't happy with my decision, but she gave me an ultimatum to either start working or to continue studying at TAFE. And for all the people outside of Australia who don't know what TAFE is, so TAFE is an institution where people can go to learn a specific topic, and they have a wide range of different courses that you can do. So after scrolling through the TAFE website and looking at all the different options, I ended up settling for a diploma in hospitality. So this specific course was more geared towards hotel accommodation, so I was learning everything from housekeeping, concierge, reservations, and etc. And if we fast forward to age 17, I received my diploma. So from there, I started working in a few luxury apartments and hotels throughout Sydney, but I quickly realized that this whole hospitality thing just wasn't for me. Personally, I didn't like the concept that in hospitality is that you usually have to work when everyone else is having fun. So from there, I went back to TAFE and I tried so many different things like personal training, sales, IT, and event management. But everything I tried just seemed like I was just working for money, and I felt no fulfillment in my life. But with that being said, we all know life ain't free, so I had to suck it up and work part-time in different hotels until I found my passion. Now, if we fast forward to late 2015, I was working a night shift at a hotel, and as I was walking through the lobby area, I saw one of the guests editing some photos on his laptop. I ended up speaking with him for a bit, and he explained that he was a travel photographer and that he was in Sydney for a travel campaign and that he was pretty much getting paid to take cool photos of the city. I was so surprised that people were actually living this type of lifestyle, and it instantly clicked in my head that this is what I wanted to do. So on that bus ride home from work, I dug into my very tight savings at the time and made the best purchase I've ever made by buying my first ever camera, which was a used Canon 70D that was on sale at the time, along with the 18 to 55mm kit lens. So the total setup costing around $600, which at the time was a lot for me. But this is where I learned one of the key steps to success, and that is investing in yourself. So this investment can be anything from gear, education, and time. My advice to you is don't be cheap when it comes to investing in yourself, because I know firsthand that investing in yourself can lead to the best returns. But anyway, that one conversation was the spark I needed, and that's how I actually started photography. Obviously, that was a super condensed version, but there's just so much I want to cover in this video. So again, if you are interested in learning more about my personal story, you can check out the free training in the description below. Now, with that being said, I want to switch gears and cover the topic of finding your passion. So in this new digital world, it seems like an abundance of gurus have burst onto the scene to help us find our passions. And after personally watching countless hours of this type of content, a lot of the advice given are these broad, simple steps like do what you love doing, try new things, turn your hobby into your career. And sure, this advice could potentially help, but if you're like the majority of us in this world, we have no idea what we want to do. And the problem is, if you live by the advice given from these gurus, you will throw out anything that doesn't feel like your passion from day one. So personally, I'm a believer that a passion is more developed than it is found. So for example, right now, I consider photography and videography to be passions of mine. But when I first embarked on this journey, photography was only an interest. But the more I developed my skills and understanding of the art, the more I fell in love with it. And this is where my passion for photography began. So again, if I followed the advice of the gurus and only searched for my passion from the very beginning, I may have never continued photography, especially during the times I really struggled with it. And this brings me to another important topic, which is people are so quick to dismiss their passions as soon as things get a little difficult, and especially when you suck at it in the beginning. So personally, I believe due to all the BS content out there, it's forcing people to develop the "it's just not for me" mindset. And this closed-in mindset is just not practical for your future, because guess what? Every job sucks sometimes. I personally don't believe that there is a job that you will never get stressed from, never complain about, or never need a slight break from. And the problem is, if you believe you're supposed to wake up every single day dancing out of your pajamas because you get to go to work, then what's going to happen on the days where you just aren't feeling it? So for example, for my work, I'm lucky enough that the majority of my clients are based in niches that I'm personally interested in. So for example, I have fitness clients, fashion clients, and lifestyle clients. But on the other side, I have more corporate clients which do pay really well, but to be totally honest, I'm not jumping out of my bed with excitement on the days I get to work with them. Because if anyone here has worked with corporate style clients, we both know that it's not the most creative or engaging style of work. So with that being said, if you are out there looking for your passion, I ask you to try focus on an interest you have first and seeing if your passion will develop from that. Okay, so with that out the way, let's cover the 3 key steps that you need to implement to escape the rat race and to live a life on your own terms. So step number 1 is to master your skills. So this one is pretty self-explanatory, but in order to live a life where you are constantly pursuing your passions, then you really need to get good at what you do. So the goal here is to be able to market and sell your skill. And every passion will be different, but you need to be constantly improving your skills. And on top of that, you need to be creative with your approach on how you can stand out from the crowd. And I'm going to be 100% real with you. This step here is the least sexiest about chasing your passions, because this is going to take a crazy amount of hard work, dedication, and consistency. So personally for me, when I first started photography, I dedicated at least 2 hours a day to go out and shoot and to develop my skills. So I used to just go out on my own and take photos of absolutely everything, all in the hopes of getting better at photography. I also went from a person who used to go out and party every weekend to someone who was staying home and learning everything I could about this craft. And personally for me, this took a few years of juggling my day job while trying to pursue photography. But once I started to pick up a few photo jobs here and there, I began building my rocket to take my passion of photography to the next level. And this brings us to the second key step to living a life on your own terms, and that is building your rocket. So this concept is designed around the idea that you need to figure out the life you want to live, then you need to work backwards and ensure you have created a strong infrastructure so that once you actually make the big jump, you have a strong foundation which will help you achieve your goals of staying out of the rat race. So for example, for me, I knew I wanted to move abroad and to start a new life doing photography and videography full time. So the steps required for that consisted of things like saving money. So personally, I saved up about 6 to 8 months of my living expenses, and this gave me the freedom to not have to rush and get a job when I first moved to Tokyo. And this really allowed me to focus all my time and energy on achieving my goal of becoming a full-time content creator. Number 2 was investing into better camera gear. So up until about 3 months of the big move, I was using that same Canon 70D that I purchased when I first started photography. But I knew if I wanted to become a professional, I needed to invest into higher quality equipment. So I upgraded my gear to the Sony a7 II, and I bought a 35mm f2.8 and a 55mm f1.8. Number 3 was building a website. So this one was crucial for me because I needed a place where I could showcase my work to potential clients. Plus, I wanted to document my move abroad by creating a blog, and I also had plans of turning this website into an e-commerce shop where I could sell things like presets, prints, wallpaper packs, courses, and etc. Number 4 was learning Japanese. And to be totally honest, I could have done this one a lot better because by the time I arrived in Tokyo, my Japanese was still trash. But the little basics I did learn did help me a lot when I first arrived. And lastly was to start building relationships with people in Tokyo. So personally, I was DMing hundreds of people through Instagram months before my move. And I was slowly building relationships so that once I actually arrived, I could have a network of people to connect with. And honestly, this was a massive key to my success overseas, and some of the people I did this with are some of my closest friends to this day. So again, really think about the goal you were trying to achieve and start making the necessary moves now to strengthen your foundation, because the stronger your infrastructure is, the higher the chance you're going to succeed. So now, once you've developed your skills and built your rocket, it's now time to take off. So this is it. This is when you put it all on the line and when you finally decide to quit your job and you finally get to live a life on your own terms. So for me, that was packing my life into 2 suitcases and moving to a totally foreign country that I could barely even speak the language. And even though the odds were totally against me, I was confident with the work I put in the last 2 years, and I was confident that I could make this work. And just remember, once you get out of the rat race, our main goal is to stay out. And I'm going to be real with you again. There's going to be a lot of turbulence once you take off, a lot of long nights working and a lot of stressing, but I can guarantee that it's so damn worth it. And just believe that if you do stay dedicated and consistent to pursuing your goals and dreams, you are going to enter the 1% of the world who have decided to do their own thing and who have decided to live a life on their own terms. Alright, so there we have it, folks. That was a super condensed version of how I was able to build a lifestyle that I personally love. And I just want you to know that these tips aren't the only way to achieve this. And I totally understand that not everyone wants to live in a different country, but this is what's worked for me. So with that being said, I hope you found some value from this video, and I hope some of these tips will assist you on your journey to living a life on your own terms. Also, if you're interested in learning more about my personal story and the steps I took to staying out of the rat race once I actually arrived in Japan, I'm currently running a free photography training that reveals my top 3 secrets to capturing professional looking photos without the use of any expensive camera gear, plus my 5 key steps to actually making money with your photography. This training is 100% free and you can register by hitting the link in the description below. Also, I'll be posting a bunch of new videos to this channel, so if you want to stay up to date with all the new content coming, hit the like and subscribe button on your way out, and I'll see you next week.